They are one mentally tough team. I love this Georgia team. They have been fun to watch, particularly in the second half. That was ESPN's Booger McFarland, his take on the number 5 Georgia Bulldogs, Ryan Curley. Certainly a curious watch in the first half. Second half, particularly the fourth quarter, and almost all of these games has been all Georgia. He loves this Georgia team.
Yeah, I think in an objective watch, it's exciting to watch Georgia because they're going down in the first half and then they're completing these second half comebacks, these fourth quarter comebacks. They entered the fourth quarter this past weekend down 9 to Ole Miss, a team that they couldn't stop, and then they figure out how to stop them in the fourth quarter and outscore them, I think 17 to nothing is what the fourth quarter score was. Georgia fans, buddies, everyone's, messaging me this week, what's going on. They're not enjoying this as much, right? It may be satisfying at the end, but it's a stressful watch for Dogs fans. But I think for college football, all of these little changes, and maybe there is a little bit more parity, this is the result, right? There's not as much domination. But as far as the first and second half discrepancies, specifically on the defense, it's kind of a mystery to me.
Yeah, I think that Georgia fans have known for several weeks now that this team is never out of it. But now you're seeing these national experts and the average college football fan tuning into these Georgia games and saying, they're realizing now the same thing. Hey, this Georgia team's never out of it. They're playing on prime time all the time. They're always in a big game and they're always getting down. And every game but one, they found a way to fight and claw back and win. And so they are a fun watch for a lot of teams. If you're an average college football fan, I'm watching every Georgia game because it's going to be fun in some type of way, and it's going to be somewhat epic unless they're playing Kentucky or one of the cupcakes. But they're getting a lot of respect, nationally for the fight and grit and the competitive drive that this team has. I'm not saying that Kirby Smart didn't love these previous teams, but man, when he talks about this team specifically, especially after a win, you could tell that he really loves this team. He loves his quarterback and he loves even the guys who are not playing, the Noah Thomases. This team feels so connected in a way, especially with the backups, and you can feel it within this team, and everyone is seeing it on Saturdays.
Yeah, I mean it's a curious. It's definitely a departure from what we've seen in the past in college football, where you've seen a few teams really dominate the sport. We're not seeing that as much now. I will say this: we may see this by the end of the season, where you do see the quarter or the semifinals are Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, and somebody. There's no certainty that that's necessarily going to change. The looking back on this season, it is hard to understand why Alabama got beat so bad at the beginning of the season, and to dismiss that would be the same as dismissing Georgia's problems, and I'm not willing to do that. I think that everybody better be ready to take a massive uppercut and get up from it. Georgia has shown the ability to do that. I don't some other teams have not. I thought Tennessee would fight Alabama a little bit harder going into the half. That was tough. But this Georgia team's shown a lot of resilience. What I want y'all to do is check out Sales Hatch. They're doing so much for you as a small business owner. They're allowing you to focus on what matters, which is closing deals. They'll do the cold calls. They'll do the emails. They'll do what it is that needs to be done to set you up for success. That's the point of Sales Hatch. We've done this before. It's tough to do. You can do it. It's not impossible, but it takes you away from your core business. Make sure you're checking out Sales Hatch today. You see that on the screen. And Ryan, you see from Georgia, they are tough. I think that matters more than do they start fast, to be honest with you, because you should never know what the second quarter will bring or the fourth quarter will bring. You have to be mentally tough. I thought Georgia was in some serious, serious trouble in the third quarter. I can't remember when it was. I think when they missed the 2-point conversion and Mississippi went down and scored, I was like, this could be, they might not be able to stop these guys.
Yeah, you talk about the mental toughness. I definitely think it's a tough team, and maybe it doesn't start with this person, but I think a lot of it bounces off of this person. Gunnar Stockton is
Yeah.
a tough player. That was a lot of what the conversation was centered around. This week it was on Tuesday at the Kirby Smart and the players' press conferences, just talking about Gunnar taking hits, right? He didn't practice in full or didn't practice at all last Monday and Tuesday because he's a little bit banged up, and it fires the team up to see their quarterback put his body on the line get back up immediately. That's something that people could see that was pretty obvious in the SEC championship that he's a tough guy and the team rallies around him. But the offense definitely is rallying behind Gunnar Stockton. And if he's playing as well as he has been in a lot of these second halves, they're winning games. And a lot of it has to do with that. But it does seem that that is one of the identities of this football team, the word resilience, right? I mean, think about, obviously they lost to Bama, but that counts as a situation where they were down and could have put themselves in position to win that game. If you go back and watch all the moments that happened at Auburn, at Tennessee, I mean, they've already dealt with two extremely tough road environments against solid football teams and came out alive after it looked like they weren't going to. And then that happens again against a really good Ole Miss team this week. But I think that part of that identity stems from Gunnar Stockton. I think that that's exuding to the rest of the team, and it seems pretty obvious to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what I have found most about this team is that the second you think they're dead, that's when they do the Undertaker and they sit up in the casket. They're not dead at all. Actually, they're going to come rip your throat out because the fourth quarter's coming. But when Gunnar Stockton fumbled, I guess late in the third quarter, maybe early the fourth against Tennessee, it looked like they were dead. They found a way to come back. Against Auburn, they were about an inch away from going down 17-0, but they didn't because they made the plays on the 1 yard line that Auburn couldn't, right? So the second you think they're dead, they find a way to come back. Against Ole Miss, they're down 9. And if they don't pick up that 4th and 1 with Josh McCray, they probably were dead. But at the end of the day, this team finds a way to make the plays when it matters most. Not necessarily in the first and second quarter, but as the game moves along, the toughness and the grit, it shows that fight. I don't know if there's any team in the country that has pushed through more adversity basically on a weekly basis than this Georgia team. And like Ryan said, that is part of this team's identity. They are not going to flinch. They are not going to die. You're going to have to kill them and really drive multiple stakes into them, like Alabama did, getting those first downs when they needed to in the fourth quarter. You have to kill this team twice. If you try to do it once, they're going to come back alive, and they're going to find a way to win.
Because of the way they play. I mean, I think some of this is stylistic, Ryan. I mean, no, you do not have Ladd, George Pickens. They do have good receivers. I'm not going to act like they don't have good receivers. They do. But they don't have explosion from Kenny McIntosh, James Cook, and some of those guys that were around at the time. They do not have that explosion in spades. What they have is, and you could see it. I was telling Jason Getz on the sideline, I was like, Mississippi is tired right now. They stood no chance in that fourth quarter. Georgia would have to turn it over, and they didn't. And I think that the big thing that I would be, concerned about if I were Georgia is that you're and let me say this first. Their style, Ryan, does not necessarily, and it can happen, but their style does not necessarily lead to quick, decisive victories. It leads to long, drawn-out games. But it also, to me, seems like, and we've seen this twice, and this is just the way I would put it. It's not the way the fall is here because I can tell with my throat. But there are teams that have no chance against Georgia in the fourth quarter. One of those teams was Auburn. The other one was Mississippi because they could not get off the field because Georgia was perfectly fine with going first down. We're going to hand it off and get 4 or 5 yards. And then from there, it's kind of easy.
Yeah, I mean the primary game plan is to grind it out and wear these other teams down, right? They don't I don't think that they really want to pass downfield unless they have to or feel like that's part of the game script. They're more than happy to come out of the third quarter up in Knoxville and run 12 times on a 14 play drive for 70 yards and take up more than half the quarter. That is the way that this team would prefer to win. And no, that doesn't lend itself to blowouts. And it's lent itself to these close games. And more on the defense, I think they end up being down, right? And so that's a different part of it. But they do have weapons. They don't have what they had a few years ago, where there are a ton of guys that are going to end up being NFL starters. But Zachary Branch is explosive. Dylan Bell is explosive. I think the backs can be explosive. You just have only seen it in bits and pieces. I think London Humphreys can be an explosive receiver. He's very fast. So they have those types of weapons. And I think that as we're seeing, they're kind of digging a little deeper into what they've got in their arsenal as the year has gone on. You're seeing a little bit more. I thought that against Ole Miss, we saw the most creative play calling that we've seen all year. That's not just because it was working and you're seeing that, but you saw a lot of misdirection, a lot of kind of double fakes, and you see the flea flicker. They're getting a little bit more creative, but I only think they're going to do that if they have to.
Yeah, going back to just the toughness part of this team, I think it stems with the head coach and the quarterback. Both of those guys just bring that element, and Kirby pushes the toughness and grit on these guys for 9 months leading up to the season, all through the offseason. He wants to build that toughness, and Gunnar Stockton's already got it, and he doesn't have to say a lot. He's not super vocal. He leads by his toughness and his play on the field, and we're seeing a confident team out there, and I think it starts with those two guys.
Hey, listen, we're going to be here for all these videos during the off week and beyond. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.